This next unit, one of the last ones before we have the assessment, is on statistics. We're actually going to backtrack for a couple lessons and talk about linear functions and how they're written and equations of lines and those kinds of things. You'll see that they become important in this chapter also when we get to scatter plots and such. So we're going to review rate of change, which is another word for slope, which we did a couple units ago, and the initial value, which we called the y-intercept. And if you remember when we wrote those equations, they were y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And there was a lesson previously where we talked about an MP3 download site where you pay $3 fixed fee for a monthly subscription. That's even if you don't get any songs, you still pay $3 to be part of the membership. And then you pay 25 cents per song, and it was written as that equation, y equals 0.25x plus $3. So part A, in your own words, explain the meaning of 25 cents. That was the per song cost, where depending on the number of songs you buy, that's how much you pay. And the $3 was the membership fee. So we have the rate of change, which is our slope, and the initial value was the membership fee. And it talks here about the coefficient of x, which is the slope, refers to the rate of change. When the rate of change is positive, our function is increasing, and when our rate of change is negative, our function is decreasing. So those are some new words that we haven't talked about yet. Question number 1 on the next page, some exercise examples. Is it a better deal? Another site offers MP3 downloads. That's a $2 fixed monthly fee. And this one, though, is 40 cents per song. So our equation would be y equals 40 cents times x, however many songs we buy, plus we have to pay that $2 membership fee, no matter what. So the second question says to determine the cost of downloading 0 songs and 10 songs. So I plug in 0 into the equation. That's if I buy 0 songs. And I get $2. So when x is 0, y is 2. And then I plug in 10 for songs. And I figure how much that is. This is $6. So if I buy 10 songs, I pay $6. The graph shows company number 1 on the last page already graphed. So we're going to mark our 2 points on here, 0 and 2. And 10 and 6, and we're going to connect those dots, and mine's going to be off a little bit. I wanted to get this exact. We'll see if I can. Number 4 says, which line has a steeper slope? So this is company 2 down here. And you'll notice company 2 is a little steeper. So company 2. Which company's model has the more expensive cost per song? That's also company 2. 40 cents is greater than 25 cents. And that steepness of the line also shows that the cost is more, because that represents the slope. Which function has the greater initial value? That's company 1. Company 1, you're paying $3 for your membership and not $2. Which subscription site would you choose if you only wanted to download 5 songs per month? So I follow 5 up, and I see which one would be cheaper. And I would come across company number 2's line first. So for 5 songs, I join company 2. Which would you choose to download 10 songs? And we go back up here and we follow 10 up here. We come to company 1 first. For 10 songs, I would join company 1. So we can use this graph as a nice tool to see which would be a better deal. Explain your reasoning. I use the graph to determine which would be cheaper. When someone purchases a new car and begins to drive it, the mileage, meaning the number of miles the car has traveled, immediately increases. Let X represent the number of years since the car was purchased, Y represent the total miles. The linear function that models the relationship between the number of years since purchase and the total miles traveled is Y equals 15,000x. Identify and interpret the rate of change. The rate of change, which is also called the slope, is the coefficient in front of X. So 15,000, and interpret that means the car is driven 15,000 miles per year. That's what that tells us in front of X. Identify and interpret the initial value. So we call that the y-intercept, which is B. You'll notice there's nothing at the end here, so B is 0. And what that tells us is the mileage of the car started at 0. So it was a brand new car with no miles on it. Is the mileage increasing or decreasing each year according to the model? So if I look at the equation, the coefficient of X, or the slope, is positive. So this is an increasing function. As the years go on, so do the miles. So the slope is positive, which equals an increasing function. When someone purchases a new car and begins to drive it, generally speaking, the resale value of the car in dollars goes down each year. So the longer you owe a car, the less it's worth. X is the number of years since you purchase it, and Y is the resale value. So this is a new linear function, 20,000. And if you notice, the slope this time is negative. So part A, identify and interpret the rate of change. My rate of change, or my slope, is negative 1,200. So what this means is the value of the car decreases $1,200 each year. Identify and interpret the initial value. That's the number that has no variables with it. So B in this case is 20,000, and that represents our starting value of the car. Or possibly how much you bought it for. Is the resale value increasing or decreasing? In this case, it's decreasing, and we know because the slope is negative. Which in turn means it's a decreasing function. So we're using it a little differently than we did before. Now we're comfortable with what it looks like, the equations. Now we can use these pieces for certain ways. The key points to remember the linear functions are written y equals mx plus b. The rate of change or the slope is m. The initial value or the y-intercept is b. If it's positive rate of change, it's increasing. A negative rate of change, it's decreasing. And if you're given two lines, each with a positive slope, the steeper line has the greater slope or greater rate of change.